Right.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Black Bear Medicine Bag Show, and with a special guest, Chief Eagle Dancing.
Eagle Spirit.
Eagle Spirit.
Eagle Spirit Dancing. Yeah.
Eagle Spirit Dancing.
Yes, sir.
Dousti natane. Osio si tunela. Hello, family. Dakote. Los Chimames. Que onda raza? What's up, everybody? What's up? We got an interesting topic and a special guest, Chief Eagle Dancing. Now let's jump into the trending topic. Ojibwe language dubbed of Star Wars. A new hope of getting the first screening, inspiring native speakers. A brand new inspiring indigenous language epic space opera Star Wars. A New Hope is getting its first showtimes this weekend. Screenings are scheduled to take place Friday at 9 theaters across parts of Minnesota, Oakdale, Parkwood, and Selfbridge, crossing the theaters in the Twin Cities. Last year, Walt Disney Studios announced that Disney and Lucasfilms were working with the Dakota Ojibwe Tribal Council and the University of Manitoba to create Ojibwe version of the 1977 film. Kathy Stables for Otia brought her niece to witness history, to see the first showing of the movie in their native language. Hearing in Ojibwe is the best part. You don't see many indigenous languages or Ojibwe speakers. She says it is very important. It is still part of our culture, all part of our tradition, and it embraces everything. So I know that, a lot of native people still are speaking their language throughout the Americas, throughout Canada, and throughout Mexico. That's one part. They took our land. They took our parts of being indigenous the old way, but we still have our spirit and we still have our languages around to the most part. And some of it's dying off, but there's still some that we can learn. What do you think about that?
Well, my name is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing. Formerly from New York, lived in New York for almost 50 years and currently live in Connecticut. I just wanted to give thanks and praise to the Great Spirit and Almighty God for allowing my brother Black Bear to have this platform, for our people are in dire and desperate need of truth and knowledge. So with that being said, again, I want to say wado to my brother for allowing this platform to be into existence, and hopefully that we can press on and move forward for greater and better things for our people. Now, regarding what the brother said, anytime you opening a wound that has already been cut again, and it was in the process of healing, and the reasons why it has not been able to heal properly is because it has not been given the proper medicine. A wound that keeps opening up and festering, or it would appear that the wound is healed, but underneath it is still tenderness. And with regards to the languages of our people being destroyed, I'd say over 90% of us do not speak our indigenous languages anymore. We have been relegated to Spanish, English, and other languages that are foreign or strange to us. So in that regards, it is something that needs to be not only talked about, but reconciled. Seems like we've lost brother Black Bear for a minute. I don't know if it's that we can't stream at the same time. So yeah, anyway, that's basically my take on that.
Oh, I was here. I was giving the respect to let you speak your mind. And, the old indigenous way of letting a man speak and everybody's quiet. Talking
Gotcha.
stick is sometimes.
I got you. It's not where you can keep both screens on at the same time. It has to be one in, one out.
No. I was like you said, I was
No. I'd prefer to acknowledge you that you're still there, because I'm thinking that I lost you.
Oh no.
I lost you for a second. So I only spoke about the reconciling that which has been lost to us, and reconnecting with a lot of the indigenous languages that have been lost. I'm here to the pains and the hurt on many different reservations of brothers and sisters who have basically cried out and said that we're losing our languages every day. An elder that's passing, and that it's not being taught in many circles, but there are many circles that they are definitely turning things around, and they are reinstituting classes and programs to try to resurrect that which has been stolen and lost.
My daughter actually excelled at the Algonquian language of Mi'kmaq. She really excelled at that, and I was proud to know that she was able to speak her indigenous language of her people, because on the res where she's from, Mi'kmaq is spoken, but not so much of the dialect of that Mi'kmaq people, which is Listigus, more of Nova Scotia. But maybe as time goes on, they could bring their dialect of it back, but it's still being spoken, but not their dialect. And that's what I find out with a lot of people is they could speak the language, but it's not the same as their parents and grandparents. And when you lose a language, you lose the identity of your family, of who you really are. But at least they still got the language around. I look at it like that. At least they still got it. And there's even a Bible written in Mi'kmaq. So that's good too. So if you wanted to understand the language of that time or in the past, because, language changed from even today among, hip hop, for example, the word word. If you said word now, they'd be like, what are you talking about? But back in the 90s, growing up in your era or further back, they would have certain things that they would say. So language is constantly changing and it's evolving even among our people. I think the greatest thing that they ever do was try to stop indigenous languages. But the funny thing was, after they realized they needed it in between World War I and World War II, see, the Navajos got famous off of it, but there's been many native nations that they used. But I guess the Germans were really smart and was able to break every native language except for Dene. And the funny thing is that the Dene language is actually a tribe from Canada. It's a bigger tribe called Athabascan, but then when they break down, it's Dene up there, and they're also called Dene there. So they haven't lost their connection. And then the Apaches, but in their tribal language, some of my ancestors from the Mexican indigenous side, they're called Inde, N-E-D-E, or they spell I-N-D-E. Depends on which way you want, traditional or what. They are also, that's a very difficult language when they talk. The warriors, from my understanding, it was a language developed, but for what the real ideal is probably the warrior society decided to give that to United States. And the Tonto Apaches probably decided to give that to United States. So there's many native nations that spoke as code talkers, the Choctaw, the Lakotas, the Comanches, but Navajos got famous off of it because theirs was unbroken. That's what I'm thinking. That's why they say unbroken language, but they didn't tell the whole story, because if they did tell the whole story, then there would be a lot more movies. And that's one of the things, as Blackbeard Medicine Bag grows, I would love to go. And my biggest thing, I'm trying to get all native nations, get to know who I am, and then go to them and say, hey, tell me your story. What's your relations with Black folks? Give me some of your Black members. Because one thing I did appreciate among the Mi'kmaq and among the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, they're more of an open Algonquian tribe. They showed me their Black members, and they showed how they love. So if somebody's looking for acceptance, it's among natives, the Algonquians, native tribes, very open-armed nations. No matter if you're talking about Narragansett, Wampanoag, Pequot, all the way down, they're very open nation. They intermarry with Black folks a lot. Yeah. Okay, moving on. I'm going to mention 5 medicines from the Southwest. Number one, agave. Agave was used to treat intestinal gastro problems, upset stomachs. Give me 1 second, y'all, as I go through this page. Was also used for gut bacteria, stomach issues, inflammation, and ulcers, cancer, and diarrhea. And that is called agave. That will be on the Black Bear Medicine Facebook page. The next one is Mystique. Mescal, which is you could use it for eye infections, headaches, and flesh wounds. The next one is Manzanita, which you could use it for the reverse of poison ivy and poison oak, rashes, shingle, open wounds, the indigenous people used, and we know cancer, headaches. Moving on, we got the next one, willow. You could use it for back pains, osteoporosis, fever, flu, muscle pain. And the last one used in the Southwest, cottonwood. Afterbirth of the placenta and increases lactation, used for gastrointestinal issues such as hemorrhage, diarrhea, for nausea, fever, and headaches. Brother Chief Eagle Dancing, what do you think about natives opening up laboratories fairly recognized in other native nations who have the money and the time to go back to some of the old medicines? Because recently everybody knows that for years, actually, for the past maybe 30 years I've been alive, they've been saying a lot of medicine these new viruses are immune to. How do you feel about them opening up a laboratory and studying medicine? To show you that's possible, the Cherokee Nation was the first native nation to start a school of medicine. And I don't know, they probably use pharmaceutical, but they also have a tribal council that uses indigenous old medicine also. They talked about it on, I forgot the show that it is, but it's a show that the nation hosts. Go ahead and give me your thoughts. I'm going to mute my mic. Oh, you went out. You went out again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Your mic is on. Your mic is on.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Testing 1, 2.
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was saying that there's an old saying that what goes around comes around. And what we are witnessing today is the resurrection of the ancients, the ancient practices of healing. It's been around for ages. It's just that because of colonialism, conquest, we have been lost to a lot of the natural elements, to which that we were connected to. And as far as mixing with the chemical synthetic industry of the Western way of dealing with internal medicine, we have seen the ill effects of that. Basically, you get a pill for a headache and they tell you that it's possible 3-4 side effects. So where are these side effects coming from? So we know that what Western medicine has done is that they have fused the natural root of the medicine that actually heals with synthetic to and what you would call a drug dealer on the street, not a pharmacist behind a barrier or in an office type setting. The drug dealer in the street, when he's mixing his drugs, what does he do to make profit? He puts a ratio 7 to 3 to expand and capitalize off of profits, even though it would cause some kind of side effect or illness or health hazard. All they're thinking about is money. So the capitalists, they came in and they saw a lot of these indigenous medicines were of great benefit, but they said we can't mass produce, so we have to synthesize it. for the masses of people to do what? To get rich. Right. So that's why we have, if you look at all of the prescription drugs in the mainstream television, and every time you turn around, they tell you this medicine is for that. But look out. Here goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 side effects. What good is that? So you get rid of one problem only to get 6 more. That's madness. So now, as far as our people going back, now I wanted to piggyback off of something before we moved into the homeopathic part of this discussion. When we were still talking about languages and reinstituting, and something I wanted to say, that what the white man has managed to do, even though we're losing our languages at an alarming rate, our people, and have been for well over 130, 40, 50 years now. One thing is good, that now we're speaking English, or some of us are speaking Spanish. And some of us that are waking up to speak Spanish, they're waking up, they're not from Spain. The Hispanic community, like, oh God, wait a minute, I'm native, I'm indigenous. I might come from Puerto Rico, or I might come from El Salvador, or Mayan, or this and that. So there is a greater broadband, if you will, to connect now, easier for us to speak to each other, even though it's not our language. It's a language of communication nonetheless. We need to utilize that to build bridges, and to being that you can't deal with someone who's just all about profit and capital gains for themselves, the selfish Western mentality. So we have to get back into not just tribalism, but opening up the indigenous communities to say, never again, we're not going to tolerate this again. Now we're doing things scientifically in a laboratory that we can still capitalize, but utilizing it in a way that is not harmful to the self or to the customer that is buying or purchasing now a medicine that is without side effects. Does that make sense to you? So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yes, that makes sense to me, because a lot of times, like you said, and one of the things growing up, my dad said, medicine is good, but it's bad because it has side effects. So he said, even if we use tradition, either you're going to survive from it or you're going to die from it. So It's like, whoa. So we went from dying from it to having these side effects. That's one thing I do have to let listeners and viewers know. When you take it's very powerful. So that's, maybe we need to learn how much we need to take that's going to be a poison, and how much we need to take if it won't be a poison, and to understand that. Because when you use it on a homeopathic level, it can still hurt you, harm you, or kill you. So we have to understand that. But at the same time, with us having technology and analyzing things before we take it, we could actually do better, I feel like, at times, versus just relying on these companies. Because the whole thing about pharmaceutical companies, where they got rid of Dr. Sebi, it was because he was healing people with natural things from the earth. He said, I did not go to school like everybody else. It was from God, from the creator, that gave me this knowledge and power. And they did away with Dr. Sebi. Why? Because he got rid of AIDS, cancer, heart disease, anything that he got rid of it. And he wanted the world to know he was not afraid. And I have not saw a man since. And even they did get rid of a rapper who was really close and making a documentary play, because he was probably going to drop the real knowledge that we needed. Now it's up to each native, each Black indigenous person to learn these ways, learn the language, because in the language there's power.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So knowledge and information and learning. We must learn. And as even the doctors who prescribe medicines, prescriptions, it comes in milligrams. So someone who has pain, depending on their levels, they give you ibuprofen, which is proven to cause serious problems internally with the organs. But for immediate relief from that pain. You know, if it's serious, they'll prescribe anywhere between 500 to 800 milligrams of ibuprofen just to deal with that pain issue, to lessen the pain drastically. So the same is with homeopathic natural medicines. Yes, indeed, I absolutely agree with that. That's something that I'm still learning myself today. You know, and I learned how to cure pneumonia with oregano oil. And boy, that was a journey. I almost died in my house 2020. Where is it that I had a serious asthma attack? It might have been partly COVID. My lungs were so filled with some kind of sludge. If I hadn't had, and listen to this, the albuterol. I don't know if you're aware of what that is. Albuterol, the
It's
nebulizer
a
machine, the
it's a
nebulizer.
sterilizer, right?
No,
It's
no,
not
it helps.
sterilizer. It's a what do you call it? Steroids
It's a
that help
form
your
of steroid.
lungs.
Right. So I was using that coupled with, I must have gone through 5, 6 2-ounce bottles of oregano oil, of 2-ounce bottles. And it took me something like about a day and a half to get the sludge out of my lungs. And it worked. I'm still here. This is what, 4.5 years ago. You know, and I never forgot that. And I realized the dosage because, of course, as a supplement just for basic maintenance, you know, you would take a full dropper maybe once a day. And then you have your regular, your mild, and your super strength oregano oil. And I was using the super strength, and I'm gonna tell you, saved my life. It absolutely saved my life. So yeah, that is extremely important, that one must recognize dosage. Yeah. And you know, most of us are not doctors, but sometimes experience is the best teacher depending on the set of circumstances that you're in. Because there are some experiences we don't come back from. And I mean that in death, you know. So yeah, it's vital, absolutely vital.
Yes. Well, I would add. I've tried it not once, not twice, 3 times. I went outside and I gathered pine needle. I washed it off to get rid of that.
Nice.
Get rid of any bugs or anything like that. And then I boiled inside the microwave, but either microwave, fire, or just any way that you can heat up. You need to cut the leaves apart, the pine needles, because that's how you activate it. And you let it boil down to a dark tea. And then you get a strainer because you don't want the bugs in there. And then after that, you mix it with honey. That's an anti-inflammatory. It takes care of everything dealing with coughs, flus, and it boosts my immune system to the point where when everybody else was sick in the house, I did not get that bug because I drank pine needle tea.
Vitamin C.
High, yes, and boosts your immune system. High in vitamin C.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So yes.
I'm sorry. I briefly spoke on what I was talking about earlier with regards to the languages. I wanted to just make sure that I was clear on what I meant with the languages, our people, and connecting that we have been destroyed almost as a people. But the greater thing that came out of that now is all of the tribes practically speak one language now. Albeit that it's English, not our language, and it's filled with so many adjectives that are destructive, but it does have its good side, and that is learning to speak good English, if you will, right? And I believe that this is it could be a cornerstone. Now, there are some tribes that don't want to integrate with the darker Indians. Period. They don't. They don't want to integrate, but we could do business. We could do business. Trade. That's something that we've always done. That word trade, huh? What? You're dealing with economics now. And that means that we must be not just consumers, but we must produce. And whatever it is that we have to offer, whatever products or services that we have, and exchange with that. So reaching out, and I know I've reached out years back to other tribal communities. I'm going to tell you this, honestly. There are some tribal communities that are they've hardened their hearts against any outsiders. They figured, as we have been compromised enough, we've been marginalized enough, we don't need you in our spaces. This is how some think, and they'll tell you. I like the ones that'll tell you, because at least you know who you're dealing with. I don't like the fake ones. In their hearts, they're smiling in your face, and then, deep down in their heart, they don't want to really deal with those kind of people. Don't want to be bothered with. But I believe that for economic prosperity for all of us, and tribal communities that are willing to network to push for economic rebirth for our people is vital for our survival today and tomorrow for our children. So that, again, that we must have, and this is where the school systems fall into, because what are the schools teaching our children? We've lost a lot of our abilities to create. Our people were craftsmen. We were builders too. We had longhouses. We were carpenters, construction, and we did trade with currency. Some of us, the wampum, the shells, and a lot of that has been lost because we have been reared towards depending upon the current currency that we use. Fine, okay, that's fine. If that's what we have to use, that's what we have to use. But being able to create again. Now our people, especially in the Dakotas, western part of the United States, we still deal with arts and crafts. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to diversify. We need trades, and we need to become builders again. You look at the Mexicans that come over here. I see them. They got landscaping businesses all over the place. Oh, and mostly in white communities. They getting that money. Can you blame them? No. Since I've been up there,
I find that if you work with them and if you're a hard worker, they'll offer you a job. You speak Spanish, they will offer, no matter what you look like, they are more equal opportunity. You speak Spanish, you work as hard as them, they will give you a job regardless of what your skin color is. They just want to know, are you a hard enough worker on their level, not to be a liability, but an asset? And if you can be, they was like, hey, come on with me, hermano. You speak Spanish? Come on, vente aquí a trabajar por mí. They said, come here and work for me. I was like, how much? ¿Cuánto le paga la hora? How much you pay an hour? I was like, oh, that's too much. But I wasn't looking at the long shot. I work with these people. I could learn some skilled trades to then move ahead as the manager and having the key resource. But if I could go back again, I should have thought about that process. Don't think about the money. Think about the trade and the game that they could lay out. I wish I would have continued with them.
Well, I agree. But my thing is, some of them coming over here and they got families, friends. They're trying to build up their own communities. And sometimes they can't afford to hire others outside of their immediate groups. And what I say is that we must individually and collectively learn to do for ourselves as Black indigenous. Now, look, we're talking about look. It's the racism against Black Americans generally, just Black Americans that have some limited knowledge of their history with regards to slavery. And now some of them, our people are branching out into Africa and, learning a little bit more about their history from Africa. And, God bless them. But Black Indians, look, Black Indians are a nightmare to the white man. And let me tell you why. Because while there are Black Americans saying they want to go back to Africa, white folks are saying, yeah, go. They're saying, go, bye. Black Indians? Mm-mm. We're a different breed. We're a different breed. They're worried about that. And they've always been worried about Black indigenous because we ain't going nowhere. As a matter of fact, we recognize that this country ain't yours. This country belongs to the Black indigenous, the brown indigenous, the red indigenous, and the yellow indigenous. Now, these white Indians that they proclaim to be native, as long as we don't find that you are engaging in divisive or nefarious activities behind the scenes within our tribal communities, you're welcome. But if you are up to no good, and this is the hard part, because it's hard to find it's hard to find a rat. No, excuse me. It's hard to find a mouse in a den of rats because it's so small and hard to see. You follow what I'm saying? So this is why I believe in separatism, because the relationship. Look, the relationship between our people has been so damaged because the foundation is that white people came here. What did they do? They enslaved, they stole, they lied, they destroyed, and wiped out, and then regulated and put our people on reservations and in boarding schools. The list of destruction, mental and physical destruction and torture is so long that it's almost incomprehensible to a rational, reasonable mind that says, who are these people and how could you do something like that? And for so long, for century after century after century, and then say that you are better today, and then keep secret that which you have done, only to find out now. People are finding out today about Indians that were in boarding schools. They were inside of your religious institutions, the Catholic churches, the institutions of so-called education, that the churches, the nuns, were killing natives in these facilities, all the way up until the 20th century. These things are, and so what that is doing is it is creating animosity, anger, resentment, up until this very day of this recording that we're doing live here. So one has to lead to the question of how can we all get past this? So I say this: it's like a woman who has been in an abusive relationship, and she fears for her life. She goes to the courts, and of course they have all of these programs set up for a woman who's been beaten, abused, and they say, well, you can go to this safe house, here. Now, what does that tell you? Separation. Why? Because ultimately what's going to happen is if that collective remains as such, somebody's going to end up hurt or dead. Right? And that's what we're facing today. So in order to diffuse and de-escalate, they have to separate the two. But because our people have learned to love our abuser, just like a woman who says after she comes with a big swollen eye and, lips hanging off and a couple of teeth missing, I still love him. And people who are dealing with a reasonable, rational mind, they say, don't you see this man trying to kill you? But you still trying to break the door down to stay with him. And we trying to help you. So, and I've learned this from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He broke this down so eloquently, back in the 80s. Anyone with common sense can see this. So when I say I'm a separatist, some people, they want to bat their eye at me and look, we're headed towards a race/civil war in this country. That's just the truth. The prophets have forewarned of this. They have let us know centuries before that this was going to happen. Why? Because they knew white people thousands of years ago with Rome, Greece, other European countries. You notice that white people are always on a like cyclical time zone when it comes to war and conflict. They never seem to be able to mete out peaceful solutions to problems that occur that have been festering like a wound that has been open, and all you do is put a couple of band-aids. You apply any medicines or any salves on an open wound. You just put band-aids over it, and it just keeps opening up and festering and festering. And now we're in the possibility of World War III today. World War I, World War II. My adopted father told me when he fought in World War II, he said when I was younger, I just remember him sitting in front of the old black and white TV when Vietnam was going on, shaking his head and saying, they told us World War II was the war to end all wars. And here we are again, World War. Who creates that whole title of World War? White people. When other darker peoples have local conflicts, it's not World War. They'll have tribal conflicts. You don't hear them say World War. Who's the only one that comes up with that title, World War? Who are you fighting in the world? And why? Why does it have to cover the whole scope of the globe to say World War? Because you have the ability, and with the machines that you have, to destroy parts of this planet. And so that means that you must have a devil. So we've always referred to this man as such, as being the most evil group of people to ever grace the planet we call Earth today. So I believe that it's within their nature. Look, even if we were to destroy, say, 2/3 of white people today, in 100 years, the ones that are left, someone would pop up just like Trump, like Hitler, again. Someone, it would be a recycling program through their DNA. They can't help it that they would want to create war and conflict. And this comes from, I want you to understand what I'm getting ready to say here. This comes from study of genetics. When our brother Yakub, Jacob, one of the 24 elders, scientists, studied the germs underneath a microscope. He studied the black, the brown, red, yellow, and the last one was the white. He studied this germ under a microscope, and the white one was the most wicked out of all the others. The white one started attacking all of the others under the microscope. This was witnessed. Now, if you look at what's going on in Europe, look at what's going on in Europe. When that African kid, 17 years old, killed those 3 white girls, someone put out was the Muslims. What did they do? The majority of white people went out in the streets. They started attacking Muslims. Now we want all of them out of the country. There was no evidence that this kid was Muslim. So what did that tell people? That automatically within their hearts, they had hatred for another people that didn't look like them, or at least some of them. And then when they found out as an African, now they're attacking Africans. You don't see our people doing that. I'm making a comparison here between the microscope and reality. You don't see our people attacking white people when they kill us. So the reality is that inherently, are all white people like this? No. But what good is the good of those who claim that they are not racist? They don't fight their brothers to stop them from creating an atmosphere that would be almost conducive to starting a race or civil war. So that means if you're standing back and you're just watching, then what good are you? Are you doing something to stop this with your people? Because what half of the other side of the white divide are preparing is war against who? The black, the brown, the red, the yellow. So my point on the genetics is validated from my not opinion, from my studies and my research and looking outward, watching the world as it is today, and who created this environment that we currently live in. Who created it? We didn't. The European did. He said he is the master of this planet. He boldly claims that. You know, he said we are the master race. Does he not? We built civilization. We are the authors. So when you begin to break apart the lies of that construct, he becomes violent. So the more intelligent that our darker peoples become in challenging his ridiculous claims, the more violent he becomes. Why? Because the lies that he has told, he can't defend them now anymore. So I always tell people that, you know, yeah, we get our best, we get our brightest, whether they're Black American, African American, Black natives. It doesn't matter. You got Black natives who call themselves African Native American, and you know what I say to them? Welcome. We need all that we can muster for our people, because every little bit helps to create a more unified conglomeration for our people to move forward. Because war is coming. Whether we like it or not, it's coming. And it has already started. Bloodshed is already taking place. And I'm praying. Listen, I'm going to show you something, bro. I'm going to show you something. That's me right there. I don't know if you can see it. Uh-oh, sorry. That's me. That's when I was a Panther.
Okay, that's when you was a Panther?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have Panthers background. Okay.
Right.
That's what's up. And one second, let me tell the fans, the two people that are watching, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for liking, supporting us. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So, I lost my train of thought. What was it? I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting old. I'm pushing 60.
You was a Panther, and you was telling the group of Black, Indigenous, African Americans, whatever that you defined yourself. Thank you for joining.
Right. So all of the indigenous darker peoples need to recognize that we have a common enemy, and the first one is ignorance. And then we have our open enemy, and that is the white Aryan racist dogs that would rather see our people either dead or back in chains in this country. And they are organizing themselves from continent to continent, in Africa, in America, in Europe. They are arming themselves and getting prepared, because the numbers, it's a numbers game. We outnumber them. The darker peoples on the earth outnumber white folks 11-1. It's been like that for a very long time. And it might even be more now, because the numbers of their birth rate is down considerably. But the darker peoples, we constantly having babies, constantly having children. So they're fearful that we are going to be we're putting ourselves into a position of control, power. And if you look around, you're starting to see more darker peoples being elected, hired for political positions and corporations, companies. So they feel marginalized, they feel left out, and ultimately feel that one day we are going to do to them what they've done to us, as though we're animals or savages like they are. Nowhere in history can even connect the dots on that and come close to what they've done to our people. We would even think about, we're not that wicked to return the favor or revisit upon them what they have visited upon our people. And it's still some cases to this very day, because as I was talking to my brother Black Bear here, that they are targeting peoples of color. Now, Native women on reservations have been going missing for a very long time. And I've heard stories about Native indigenous brothers and sisters on the reservations who were just walking and hear gunshots, and they look up and they see white men driving by on pickup trucks doing drive-bys just for the sake of being violent towards indigenous peoples. Now, here we are today, more and more women of color are disappearing, ending up in rivers, ending up stuffed in suitcases, and being killed with little to no explanations from these news outlets as to what happened to these women. It's not white women for the most part that are disappearing. It's mostly women of color, and that is of serious concern. So we have to be vigilant on that. And with regards to our families, the women who are most vulnerable have to be alerted, have to be informed, and be on guard at all times. There is a contingent of white supremacists who are out there. They call lone wolves, to go out and for initiation, to go attack soft targets, black and brown, red and yellow women, for murder. And this is a serious problem. So I wanted to touch on that.
Can you expound on, because both and I understand soft and hard targets for people who in the security world, but can you explain people to the viewers who don't know what a soft target versus a hard target is? You and I are a hard target. What would be a soft target?
A soft target would be deemed as women, children, easily subdued or easily killed without much resistance. People, and also people who are, how should I put it, oblivious to their surroundings. Hard targets are people, I would have to say, like myself, my brother Black Bear here as well. Hard targets mean, so look, I'm from the Bronx, and growing up in the Bronx, you always had to have your antennas up. And I'm from an area in the Bronx that wouldn't be considered the ghetto. I'm from the Northeast Bronx. I'm not from the South Bronx. I hung out in the South Bronx when I was younger. And the South Bronx back in the 70s and 80s, that was ghetto. And to be honest, when I tell you I hung out there. And there were gang fights. I know I got jumped by about 50 to almost 100 guys. Me and my friends of 6 or 7. And that's putting it mildly. And so hard targets are people who have gone through not initiation, if you will, but a type of just rigorous conflicts.
Would you say training and knowledge how to get out of a situation? It may not be physical, it's mental, using everything that you've been trained with, mental, physical, and numbers.
Well, training, it wasn't voluntary. I'll tell you that. It was involuntary training, because never did I ever think that when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, that I would be engaged, in physical conflicts that I could have easily ended up in a box, and having to fight my way, 10, 15 guys on me at one time. And escaping all of that, having to come in face with over like 70 police officers, and having to, that's something that you don't wake up and say, yeah, I'm gonna end up in this type of conflict today and God help me. No, but nevertheless, those things happened to me, and it gave me an awareness. I remember, I'm gonna give you a particular example. Coming home one day with my brother and his best friend. This was back in the early 80s, I think, when I was just entering junior high school. and we went down to what's called Delancey Street. And Delancey Street at that time was known for Jewish merchants and others, Asian merchants out there selling what do you call brand name clothing. I was getting clothes. It was in August for school. And there were a lot of thieves and robbers around. Now I was like 13, 14 years old, you know, but I watched my brothers coming, my brothers and his friend. We was coming back home on the train. There was two guys that was following us the whole time, all the way from Delancey Street, which is about 45 minutes on the train, all the way uptown to the Bronx where I was from. And, you know, I watched them. They was telling me just keep my head up, you know, and, you know, watching, and my brother was talking to his friend, you know, who's like a friend of my family. And my brother's friend was a gangster, straight up gangster. I didn't find that out until many years later. He was the kind of dude, he got into fights with police officers. He beat up 2 or 3 cops at once. That's the type of you know, people that I was around. So you know, he told me, he said, make sure you always keep your head up, keep your eyes sharp and your ears when you out and about, you know. And that's the type of education that I got growing up in the Bronx. And of course, these guys, they thought twice before they stepped to my brother and his friend. You know, God bless his soul. He's dead now, you know, but they taught me a valuable lesson. And so when I'm out and about, like I said, a hard target is someone who's just basically aware of his surroundings at all times. You know, I constantly walk with eyes in the back of my head. Ain't nobody sneaking up on me. And that's what that boils down to. And just you know, having your infrared, you know, and scoping your 360 degrees. You know, I make sure that I tell my wife whenever she's out, and my daughter, and even my 13-year-old son. So that's the difference basically between soft and hard targets. Trust me when I tell you this, that someone who's it doesn't even have to be somebody racist, somebody just trying to rob you. If you're not focused and aware, that person will pick up on that. And, you know, they'll say, oh, well, that's being paranoid. No, it's not. No, that's just being cautious and aware of your surroundings. A little bit of paranoia, there's nothing wrong with that. Might save your life. I know, I've been there. So even if that's never happened to you in your life, in current state of affairs in America, the way the system is, they let so many people go into prison who commit all kinds of crazy crimes, and they letting them out with no support systems. No way for them to get jobs. These people end up revolving doors. They're in and out of prison, and this is set up. This is designed this way. So these
recidivism. That's what they call it. Recidivism.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, brother. So these are the type of people, you never know who's around you. So you keep your eyes and your ears sharp, because it could save your life. And look, the benefits of being a Black Indian, for me, and I'm not throwing shade at our brothers on the Indian who are so-called pure bloods or whatever the case. You know, I walk different. I have a walk about me that I'm just gonna let you know, I ain't no easy target. I'm no easy target, and you better think twice before you run up on me. That's my attitude. I exude that type of energy. And I can't remember the last time I was robbed unless somebody broke into my car. Other than that, somebody running up on me, nah. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I think one advantage that we have is living in, or you grew up in an area like me that it was disadvantaged. So we have situational awareness. That I was watching a video with the Marine, and they said a guy from the inner city, like you and I, will understand, oh shoot, we're in Iraq, we better look both ways. We already understand that, versus somebody who lives in Caucasian influenced white America, they would get got like that because
Right.
They don't understand where they're at, where they doing. Even though they're at war, they could not understand. You better get down, duck behind something, because they're not used to living in the hood and hard environments. You put us anywhere, I tell them this, hey, I grew up in the hood. You put me anywhere, I'm gonna figure out how to survive. That's why I think that the element that people don't understand about us. So it's anywhere, we're gonna figure it out.
Well, to piggyback on that last statement, you do have, to be fair, you do have some white ghettos. They're called trailer parks. You have some trailer parks. I'm not going to that trailer park trash business, but there are some white boys in those trailer parks. There's some of them gangster. Some of them gangster, and they have that. They have that almost that street mentality to a degree, and it's sad that people should have to live this way. But this is the violent incorporated part of America that's been with us since its inception. See, America was born and built on what? Theft, lies, of course, deception,
Broken
torture,
treaties.
murder, broken treaties, and violence, extreme violence. So this is what built this country. They want to do on the History Channel, talk about the men who built America, and you sit there and you watch this and you're like, okay, but you had slaves that you beat and tortured. You had the indigenous peoples that you also enslaved. You positioned them around the country. You broke them up around the country, and you damn near destroyed their language. You took their land. So what do you mean that the white men who built America? So you left everyone else out that that you forced labor, that you stole labor, that you deceived and destroyed. You left them out. So white supremacy on the History Channel, I had to point that out, gave that label that only white men, and you get a lot of them running around here talking about, yeah, we built America. You ain't do nothing. That's a slap in the face and an insult to my forefathers.
Yeah, you always hear the Irish and the Italians came over here and built up the cities, but who kept those cities running even afterward? Like I hear them, and then another thing about reparations is, well, we were slaves. I was like, indentured servants is not the same thing as slaves. Give and take. Maybe the English did defeat you and put you in indentured servitude, but you got out of it, and you got whiteness. The Italians and the Irish got whiteness. Versus blacks had a different status even to this day, and they're still owed that. And a lot of people have talked about how, hey, we did, the Japanese didn't get, no, Japanese got paid, everybody else got paid. Even native nations like the ones in the West on the reservations did get reparations. A native guy told me we got our reparations on the tribal lands, the ones who did sign the treaty and move from like Indiana and further back. They got money. They just choose not to use that. There's some natives sitting on money, but they choose not to use that because they want to respect the land, and which is fine. But you got to kind of balance it out. If your people are starving, you have to find a way to help your people. And another thing I find on reservations is like Navajo, Begay, or Yazi. They're only going to help Begays and Yazi, nobody else. So you got to spread the wealth around versus now we're working backwards, working something out of nothing. Not to say that we haven't had opportunities, but it's only a small elect few with those opportunities that really turn around and benefit the hood. Even when we got HBSUs, historically black colleges, these black colleges do not help the Black America. It's like they say, forget us. And you don't want to go back to the hood because the hood turns around and bites you. To me, you got to be balanced. Don't be in the hood or the res to the point where it tears you up, but build something. Go back and build something.
Yeah. That is a valid point to some degree. You have what do you call it? The bourgeoisie who only cater to their own 10%. We call them the rich slave makers of the poor. And you remember, some of our own people sold our own brothers and sisters down the river, whether they're African, Black American, or even Native Black American or indigenous Native. Have many that have come in that line of history who, when the white man said, I'll give you a white picket fence, a white dog, and a white woman as long as you do my bidding. And this is the bourgeoisie, if you will. And over time, of course, they have accrued wealth through that, and they use that against those of us who are less fortunate. Some of us who have not sold our souls, but at the same time who are poor, and as a result, so that's why we have to hold the flame of justice to the feet of these people, to force them to change the educational process in the system. If we are ever to pull ourselves up again by our so-called bootstraps, that we need not just GEDs and diplomas, because that has proven to be almost worthless. I would even submit to tell you that some of the college degrees that a lot of our people have attained through study and their sojourn in the colleges have come out looking for jobs, which makes no sense to me. Because if you have your master's degree, you, you have your, I'm gonna say it again, your master's degree, but you are not the master of your destiny. What good is that degree that your master gave to you for your self-worth, your sense of prosperity, for the present and the future, for yourself and your community? Whereas that any viable services that you can offer to your community, trade, business, if you have none of those services that you, what good is your psychology master's degree going to do for you in the community? Whereas if you go into a poor community and you are a psychologist and you're trying to help people, but guess what? The people can't afford your services. Who can afford $150 an hour?
I would say hospitals. Like, this is my mindset is like this. You're going to have to build your own freelance type of business, basically. And then on top of that, then you would have to bring in the hospitals that would pay you for your own freelance type of business. That's kind of how I would look at it, because I was just thinking we have to create businesses like LLC, do whatever you got to do, register with the state, and then come as a freelance individual that's not attached to anything but your own self. So then you can make the money and not charge the people to make it a nonprofit type of thing, if that makes sense to you. And that's how I've been seeing things. There was this thing in the state of Indiana called Fathers and Families. They would get paid as freelancers and get paid. So there's ways around to work in the hood and to the res. There's ways around, because there's rich people always trying to find a tax write-off. You need to find a tax write-off to help you too. So we got to develop and have more things like, okay, we're impoverished. How can we get to the money like everybody else does? We got to start thinking and moving like rich people that help our own people. And one of the things that I did see is set up hospitals, self-help, help ourselves. Okay, the white man, we can't blame no more, or we can't wait on the white man. We got to go out and do it ourselves. And one way is to start building businesses, LLCs and escrows and what other business that we can build ourselves, and then piggyback and try to get some of that money. We even have GPT. I think that's where we can have androids write for ourselves. And when they write for us, then boom, then we go get those grants easier. Boom, we start doing whatever means. If we have to use our sisters, they own 50%, we own not 49%. Boom, we got to do whatever means is necessary. That's where we at right now. Whatever means is necessary.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, my brother Black Bear. Only thing I was referring to was that basically redirecting our emphasis on impractical studies and education. So there are some people who, if they, and I meant my psychology, I was using that as an example because of many people who go through that. So many people I talk to, and they tell me about either their children or they was thinking about going to school for psychology. And so many of our people are drawn towards that because they realize that there is an illness within the society and they want to help people. But the problem with that is that if trying to set up a practice with psychology and no money and a ton of bills that you already got and have incurred from your tuition, and you're sitting there like, oh my God, you got all of this weight on your shoulders now, and you're trying to pay off you're trying to live, and then you're trying to set up a practice all at the same time, and knowing that if you go into under the system. Now, you said something about grants. Fine, yes, in some cases that works, but we're looking at the numbers here. How many people are actually gone towards working in the public sector, and they actually benefit? They're making enough money where they can live, they can eat, roof over their heads, they can drive a car, and pay off their loans from tuition. So I was looking at practicality, and again, I learned this from listening to the minister. It taught me so much about that, and Minister Louis Farrakhan, that is. And he said that we must learn to be practical. That's why I was touching on the trades, that so many of us are coming out of high school, some of us with GEDs and diplomas, even like myself, never even going to college, but with no trade skills. There are so many trade services that our people need in our immediate communities. Even a local grocery store. Look at in the Bronx, where I'm from. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, most of the grocery stores were owned by Black Americans. But by the late 70s, early 80s, not anymore. The bodegas were owned by Puerto Ricans, and then others came, Dominicans, and then others. Then some. Now it's the Arabs. You rarely see It's funny, you don't really see Koreans owning grocery stores unless they own the actual venue, that location, and they're renting it out. So this is something that needs to be changed with dealing with services. There's nothing wrong with professional services. I agree that we need professional services, but to the extent where you're cutting yourself in the process of trying to maintain something that is almost unsustainable, because to get where you are, you're already in a deep hole that every time you're trying to dig yourself out, all you're doing is throwing more dirt on you and burying yourself in the muck. That's the only thing that I was alluding to, with that, Brother Black Bear. I hope that you can understand and see what I was saying.
Yeah, I understand that. And then I thought about this. Like, I just thought about this. It's just throwing it out there. Like, I live in Indiana. This territory was on, and northern area was Potawatomi, part of the Anishinaabe 3 Fire Circle. Then there's further down is Miami, and then further down is Lenape. That was they asked Miami to come over here, and I was thinking, like, if you could partner with them from Oklahoma, hey, look, you guys may want some territory over here. I need to set up a gas station, whatnot, or whatever. And hey, would you guys be interested? I'll write up the paperwork, see what we could do coming together. Like, I've actually asked the Lenape, and he was like, well, it has to be on nothing wrong with the land. I'm like, there's so much land over here in Indiana. And I was thinking, well, maybe get some area in the hood, set up a shop like that, see back and how would they feel about coming back and build up in that area. And then, hey, that's Native/Black owned and ran. And so, we could get a whole bunch of write-offs. I'd be like thinking a lot of different ways to get these businesses and ideas off the ground, because we need to, in order to make our people survive. Because we got a lot of other people coming in the government. I blame the government doing that on purpose to push everybody against each other. So then when it comes down to coming together, people were, what about what's in the hood? Well, did you ever try to build something in the hood? Did you ever try to be a real estate? I'd be like thinking, like, what have you done as an individual? Before we cry about it, let's think what we could do to make it better, or change it, or jump over it.
Exactly.
Because that's one of the things I think about is we shall remain. We shall remain alive. going to 39 and 40, I always think of a way to get out of it, or is it the next day or the next day? And it may not happen in my lifetime, but maybe I could teach my kids, who my kids might get it, or my grandkids might get it, or my great grandkids might get it. Even with this show, like maybe they'll push it 100% because they see what dad is doing. Kids don't learn by what you tell them, by what you see them. We got to go in and start teaching seeds, you know. And I wanted to teach I be teaching before I got ready. I had my kids prepare me, help me get ready. Certain things I say, hey, help me with. They did. So they see dad doing it. So now they could get a podcast and talk about silly things. And, you know, kids get more views a lot more times. So that helps them become better. And have their own business.
Action speaks louder than words, you know, sometimes. And you know, I'll make example like my son. He's 13 years old. He's in the 8th grade now, and I've been there with him every step of the way. My daughter, she's in college. She's 20. She's in college now. So having good parental supervision in your children is vital. But here's the thing now. Here's the thing. Some of our people, we push our children to go to school, get a job. That's wrong. When the 10%, the elites, they push their children to go to college to maintain the business status quo, to control that which their fathers control, their grandfathers have controlled, their great grandfathers have control. So they're pushing this inheritance to make sure that it goes in hands, in viable hands that are able to maintain the system and the level of control, economic power, economic control that they've had over us for the past 200 plus years. But we don't do that. For the most part, we're still telling our children, go to school, get a job, to work for the very same system that's destroying our people. So this is backwards, and it can't be maintained. Now, my wife now, she's starting to really see that the only way that we are going to be successful and independent, we must break away. We must break away. We must start our own businesses. And it must become like an infectious disease amongst our people that we want to say, we're tired of working for you. We want our own now. We want to do for ourselves now. We want to educate ourselves, for our people and our community. And we're going to do whatever it takes for our people to realize this goal for the present and for the future, because it's going to take time. Nothing happens overnight. And the biggest problem that we have is confidence and trust. So as a man thinketh, so shall he be. So we still thinking like Negroes and illiterates, and no confidence, and because of what we've been taught. But we must break those shackles. And first of all, we must learn to be humble, humility, recognize leadership when you see it. And if that leadership is good leadership, follow, because before you can lead, you must follow. You must be a good follower. So if somebody gives you good instruction, follow it. Some of us, nigga ain't telling me nothing, and I ain't gonna follow that. That's the attitude right there, which is a self-destructive attitude. We never get anywhere that way. We never get anywhere. And then our leadership, we have to be mindful, because some just want to be power mode, and so they can rule over our people with an iron hand. In some cases, it might take that, because some of us are so negative and destructive. They might need an iron hand over the people just for us to make strides. But at the same time, the leader must be balanced and equitable and just in order for us to make strides. You think that white folks didn't go through when they stole what they stole, or people did what they did, our people, that they didn't have to go through those same kinds of challenges? And sometimes they had to kill some of their own people just to make progress that they wanted, even though however evil it was, they had to do what they had to do to get where they are today. And our people, we might have to go through. I owned a security company for several years. You know, there was a power struggle, you know, between me and my business partner. My business partner caught the short end of the stick because I warned him of his wickedness, but he didn't listen. You know, we were both the controllers of the company. Of course, we had our differences. You know, it's a tug of war. You know, but his idea of moving ahead didn't coincide with my idea of forging a greater business for ourselves in the community, because I wasn't just thinking of myself. I was thinking about the community at large, employing our people. And that's exactly what we did. We were employing our people in the immediate communities. And I felt good about that. But my partner was like a microwave oven. He wanted to press 1 and 2 and instant gratification. That's what he was like. So he brought the drug game into the business without telling me, right? You know, and that was, we were struggling in the beginning. You know, we needed money. The banks did not want to lend us the money, but I wasn't on that boat with that. He did it behind my back. So, because that's what he came from. That's what he came from, was the drug game. Very smart individual, but not smart in the terms of the long term. I said, if God be for us, then who could be against us? That God will provide down the line. And he should have realized that after September 11th hit, our phones were ringing off the hook. I was working 7 days a week. Months after September 11th, I was barely getting any sleep. That's how much work we had. We had so much work, man. I remember we was literally out on the street.
Wish I could have joined y'all, you know, because I do security and I got getting my security off the ground too. I understand exactly what you mean, brother, as far as you got to have the business license, you have to have the business liability insurance, you have to have the website, you have to have all these different connections, and it depends on what type of business that you have, what you need. It's a struggle.
The website that came later. You know, we did have computers early on in the game, because you're talking about 2001. You know, so the computers technology at the time was still developing, you know, and getting better. But that was the website. We were literally recruiting in the papers, and we were recruiting people in the papers, and we were on the streets recruiting people off the streets in my neighborhood. Yeah. Literally,
Man,
like
I
that.
did not know y'all could even, like in 2001, you can even get a job like that. Like, but you know what? Now I thought about, that's probably how you got most of the jobs. So you went around, you would literally get up and just walk down the street and try to find a job. That was still when paper applications was going on. Because I remember I got my job in 2000, was it? Or yeah, 2001. I worked as a shoe salesman, and I remember it was a paper application that I had to fill out.
Yeah.
And I've been working the summer of 2000, 2001. I was working.
Friends of employees, sometimes family members of employees that was that started with, you know, my company early on. They reached out to some family, or they reached out to friends. That chain link, that networking, it helped us to grow in a short space of time, you know, that because I remember one night we got a nightclub that was out in Brooklyn, and we needed 30 guards.
Oh yeah, I know sometimes like you and I both know situations happen. They need it like boom. Like one guy saw me doing security at the Waffle House. I had to call my bro up who was working another company and was like, hey man, I need like 15 guards like stat. And so they were going back and forth to try to get the right type of deal. They said they didn't want it. And then they called us back an hour later, but then they couldn't secure the money. So we don't do nothing. If you don't get the money secured before you do, you better not do no work.
Oh yeah,
you better not do no work if you do not get the money first.
You get at least a deposit, and that deposit has to be the equivalent of being able to pay all of your your workers, because you don't want your workers to turn on you at the end of the night. Hey, where's my money?
Right, right. They'll turn on you, and then you're gonna need some help if you don't got a taser.
Security.
Security, call the security. Oh, you gotta call the police.
Man.
If you don't pay the police, they driving off. Right? Police make better security because they get paid. Like, I don't know about where you from, but here it's like $300 to $500 a night just sitting there outside the club doing nothing. It's probably more money on the East Coast, isn't it?
No. We had a couple of correction officers, that worked for us. And 1 or 2 police officers that worked for us. And, we explained to them early on that we couldn't pay outrageous money, but that if they stuck around as the company grew, because some of them knew, and there was some people that had, listen, I had a lot of respect, man, because when my business partner, his background, he had a felony record, and I didn't know that. Found out later. I was really the principal officer of the company because I never been in jail, but I had security experience. I got jumped by some of the most notorious Jamaicans in the Bronx, 6 of them, and beat up one of their elders with my bare hands. So I had reputation in my neighborhood. A lot of people knew me. They knew I worked in law enforcement, and other people knew I was a Black Panther. So that carried over to some of the guys that were introduced to me. They were like, "Oh man," they were like, "Oh, I man, it's a pleasure." So they're shaking their head. It's a pleasure, man. I heard about you, man. Your reputation, would definitely play a part in some people wanting to take like a pay cut if they see potential. And at that time, my business was in the process of growing, and but yeah, we definitely had to pay them a little bit more. But at that time, it was probably maybe about $140, $150 a night. No, we wasn't paying $300 in 2001, 2002. Oh hell no! Oh no. No, as a CEO, I wasn't even getting paid that much. Me and my partner, I was averaging $1,000 a week, $1,000 a week, right?
Gotcha.
And so different. Yeah, you think it was because it's the Northeast that they were getting that much more money? Not in those days.
Not security. So no matter where you go, security's the lowest paid, but the much needed type of thing.
The lowest
one of the things I found, like trying to get a deal, I almost got a deal just working. I said I wanted $40 an hour. So me and another person come in. I could get paid $20 an hour and they could get paid $20 an hour. They turned me down because I guess somebody else went lower and they got a lot of other apartment complexes. And a Muslim brother who follows Muhammad, not Muhammad, but Farrakhan also told me, hey, sometimes you got to go down.
Same thing. There's no difference between Master Farad, Elijah Muhammad, and Farrakhan. That's the Trinity.
Okay.
They all are the same.
Gotcha.
They're all the same. So when you talk one, you're talking the same.
Got you. Yeah, he was telling me sometimes you got to get less and he'll take less. If we could get more deals, he's not tripping because he just wanted to help me grow. It didn't work out like that because we called him back, but it was experience. It was growing. So now I know when I get my business from being dissolved to reinstated, then now I know, hey, take 16, 615. You got a regular job. Go ahead because you're trying to grow as a business. Take whatever you can to keep growing. You're going to have to start small, but you can get 4 or 5 of 16. And hey, look at that. You know what I'm saying? Multiply 5 times 16 and you get more money long ways. And that's kind of how I got to look at the long game, not the short game, the long game. And I think that's what you were talking to emphasize. We couldn't pay you much, but the long game, you'll get more down the road if you stick with us.
It's in a nutshell. And that's how we were able to get through. In the beginning stages, there was times where we had, I think it was one particular account where we didn't make any profit off of, but we had the account 7 days a week. They were open 7 days a week. and I was glad to give that account to one of my homeboys. Oh my God, wasn't that what's the name's brother? A son, my homeboy's nephew. One of my friends, his nephew, is a big. He's black Indian Jamaican dude, big guy, and he was real humble, man, really nice brother. I gave him that spot, and he made 100% profit off of that. And when I think about it in hindsight, because the owners of that place, they were white Italians, but they were very nasty. I didn't really even want to do that. We did it for, how should I put it, advertisement, because our guards were in uniform. So of course we did have people that came through that they liked the services, and we always equipped our guys with business cards to, if someone wanted to check out our services, give them a card and they can give us a call. So that's the only thing we used them for. Other than that, we had a feeling that they were somewhat racist in their attitudes, the way they talked to
they forgot people. That they were at the back burner. A lot of these Irish never forget where they come from, but the Italians really forgot that they were at the bottom. They were fighting tooth and nail. They were fighting each other, fighting Irish. If you guys ever watched the Gangs of New York, you will see what the Irish were doing. They were killing each other. So they had to give them a policeman job. They had to give them the fireman jobs. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've seen that movie 3 times, but I know the history of the gangs, the mafia, whether they was the Irish mafia, the Italian mafia, the Jewish mafia. Yeah. So they were all fighting for positions and control of one what do you call that the
territory trust.
Not just that, but
the boroughs,
the municipality, the fire departments, the police departments, and other services that were open for control. And they were all fighting, even the illegal drug business and the liquor and all of that stuff. They were all fighting for. And you looked at the 20s and the 30s. They were mowing each other down with Tommy guns, and and here we are today, mimicking them.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. It's almost like what one of my friends who's Black Korean, Micmac, told me. They're no longer in the game. They let us do the stupidness now. They got their stuff to do.
No. The CIA is in the game.
Oh, I forgot about them jokers. That's who put drugs into the Black neighborhoods and Latino communities.
We call them criminals in action. And of course, they've been in bed with the cartels for a very long time. And that part was about the degeneration of our people in the communities, especially after the civil rights era, with the Deacons for Defense.
Right. I remember they defended Martin Luther King. People don't know that Martin Luther King was peaceful until he had to fight. He learned a lot of things from the minister. Go ahead, Malcolm X.
No. Well, he did. But it was that day he sat down with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was his eyes open.
Didn't know that. See, in the shows, they always show him and Malcolm. I didn't know that they had a meeting with. See, they took that out.
He sat down with and he gave an interview. And they recorded it in what was it, Playboy magazine? It was in the back of a Playboy magazine book. Somebody showed it to me.
What?
And the interview was how did he feel about his integration position and the those that were in the Black community that were against integration. And he said He said, "My God, with a heavy heart, I feel as though I have integrated into a burning house."
Right. He realized that went towards the end of his life, he realized everything wrong. And then he started asking about the money, where the money at. They didn't care about civil rights. Ain't nothing for them to sign a bill. But when you start talking about money, equality, all of that stuff, that's when it's going to become a major, major, major issue. That's why when we talk about where's the money, reparations, and we pushing that, that's when everybody, oh, well, we need no. See, I sit down. Besides the American natives who got slavery thrown on them in the Southwest, the Southeast, they endured that. Outside of that, no. You guys could come after us, like the Irish, y'all should get afterwards, but let us get our piece first. But it's never going to happen like that anyway. We could keep pushing, but we got to figure out another way of getting ourselves off the ground, and then maybe we could push for that once we put somebody in power who wants to do that. If the time, because we see, as we talked about towards the end, what it's really going to play out. It's not going to be from us. It's going to be from above that's really going to give justice to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because of how all of the different things, the signs from the heavens, you got earthquakes, you got fires, you got floods, you got war, everything matches up to that time of the end. And that's what it's really going to come down to. We can never do it ourselves. It has to, because
only God himself. Only God himself has the power. And, he's just waiting for our people to turn from our ways that we've been taught against the oppressor for the past 300 years. We have been miseducated and indoctrinated with poisons of the heart and the mind. And that's the Western mind. And that's why he says, come out of her mentally, spiritually, come out of her, not physically. Because most of us ain't going nowhere. So it's a mental and spiritual embarkation coming out of. People don't understand what that means. Is we speak English, but we ain't from England. We call ourselves American, but we not really American.
Right.
Really. It's so much when you break it down, they have taught us to act like them. And I just explained that. I said the mafia and them, the Irish, the Germans, the Italians, and the Jews, they were fighting and killing each other over drugs and all kinds of. They had brothels, all kinds of degenerate behaviors in their communities, killing themselves, vying for positions of power and economic control. And here we are today doing the same things. We weren't like this before they retrained us. Before they put us into their public schools. What's the difference between the public and the boarding schools? Between indigenous peoples and so-called peoples of color within the inner cities. What's the difference?
Nothing.
It's almost the same curriculums. Almost the same curriculums. It was
one thing to answer your question of the schools, public school, military, and prison are all the same. It's ran by the same thing. It's the government. No matter what, it's going to be low. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be not enough funding. Why? Because it's controlled by up top on purpose.
Well, yeah. So they always told us that they want us to, what was that? Kill the Indian and save the man. Right? You've heard that before, right? What were they saying? Right. They were saying as though all indigenous peoples lived like the Dakotas and the Lakotas in the Midwest. That was the frame that they put up. Said these are all of the Indians in the United States. They didn't say it, but they're putting that image up there. That's what it was. And then, of course, we started learning, wait a minute. There were some indigenous peoples that lived on the East Coast and the West Coast. They had cities. They had towns. They had structures of buildings. They had governance. The governance. No, well, most tribes still had governance. You don't have to have big buildings to have governance. Governance is the art of good politics, in taking care of your people, the structure, the laws, enforcement, the economy. That's what good governance is. That has nothing to do with buildings and structure. You're talking about moral, economic, and spiritual structures that you can't see but are there within the people. That's what you call a civilized society. So, but the difference was between the Lakota and Nakota, they were nomadic tribes. So the white man used that picture and it said, y'all need to become more advanced. When he knows damn well on the East Coast, we were. As a matter of fact, when they came here on the East Coast, we taught them how to grow their food. We taught them how to build their lodging. You understand what I'm saying to you? We even had, of course, the natural medicines. Well, really, that was really all over the country. We had natural medicines for healing. But on the East Coast and on the West Coast, for the most part, we had towns and small cities. As a matter of fact, I believe in the Ohio Valley with the Cahokia, it was called Cahokia. They said that there were cities there that rivaled Paris of over 50,000 people. This is a white man's rendition of this, and he took notes. I think it was a Spaniard. They took notes. They couldn't believe it. So somebody's been lying about our people's history and our advancements in building.
Right.
Somebody has not been telling the truth, and we know who that is. We know who that is. So all indigenous peoples did not live the same. We did not live the same way. Nomadic tribes and stationary tribes, big difference. But they put us all into one boat and said, "This is the sum of you people."
Right.
That's just not true. It's just not true.
And then, well, that city was on the Mississippi. That the Spaniards came up through the Mississippi and went up on Illinois. That's what Cahokia is. But in the Ohio Valley, there was a whole bunch of like towns that were the mound builder towns.
There you go.
The mound builders, and some of them like the Hopewell. They were so advanced that they had one place that was a cemetery, was a ceremony ground. And on top of a ceremony ground also was an astrological place. They had 3 places in one spot. And that's very advanced. They have a cemetery or burial ground, have a ceremony, and have where you study the stars. How much more could you ask for? And these were people without modern technology. How did they do it? And they still, and that they're protecting. This is a world spot. There's a lot of mounds from Ohio, Indiana, all the way down to Mississippi, where our ancestors come from. And our ancestors say we come from these mound people from the, what is it called? I can't even think of the one from Mississippi. It'll come to me all the way to North and South Carolina. But North Carolina, Cahokia is the, not Cahokia, Katua is the mounds of the Cherokee people.
Katua.
Katua. I heard Kadua, I heard Kachua. Depends on where you are. East or west.
Depending on where you are. That's true.
Right.
Right. Yep, you're right. You're right. But they also they found Mayan type structures in Georgia and Atlanta.
Right. There was a wave of Mayan people that integrated with the Creeks and the Cherokees that people don't know about. That's why sometimes in Black DNA, you'll find a few Mayan, let's keep it real, Mayan, not Olmec, because they keep trying to claim Olmec is dead. It's too far. Even by the time the Aztecs they were gone. The Olmecs were gone. But the Mayan were still there. They kind of ran neck to neck with the Aztecs. But Olmecs they came, they went, and they left. But the Mayans were there. They came all the way up. That's why certain people say some of their origin stories come back to the Mayans. Oh, it's called Nanawaya. Anybody who is Choctaw descent will either have some of that Mayan or go back to the mounds, Nanawaya. Now, the biggest question I do ask the native people, if you are these natives, shouldn't you go back to the mounds that you claim? Shouldn't DNA show up? And you know what they tell me? They tell me, we know who we are, but we don't need to go back to the mounds. I'm like, If there ever was a debate on, are you really these people? These are your ancestors. They do use DNA to compare the bones to the tribe, even to this day. So I want to say the same tribe that you use, the same DNA that you use.
Over 16,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
They find some, it was a black archaeologist in South Carolina that said they found the depths of bones that go over 37,000 years ago in South Carolina.
Right.
You know, you understand what I'm saying? So, from what I know, that some of the ancient Kemetic peoples, and again, we was talking about this earlier, that in the Grand Canyon, they found evidence of what looked like so-called Egyptian artifacts inside some of. I know that to be factual, and that's because of my knowledge about this planet. You know, the people really don't know how the moon got where it is. White folks now, because I remember when we was growing up, they said the moon has always been there. Now they're saying, wait a minute, there's something fishy about the moon. It's not really supposed to be there.
Right.
But at one time it wasn't. And the moon is a product of a great explosion by one of the ancient scientists. His name was Shabazz, who caused a great destruction on the planet by putting explosives inside the earth. You ever notice that they find certain parts of the earth, all of these giant holes? You know, they can't explain how these holes got there. But if you look at the Grand Canyon, it looked like it was something pulled out of it. That it was a piece that's missing, like a puzzle. If you look at the and that's called one of the seven wonders. The Grand Canyon is called one of the seven wonders of the world. Right. And what is he wondering? He's wondering how it got like that, because he has not been on our planet that long for him to know. And if you look at the Saudi Arabian deserts, the so-called Middle East, they don't know. That's another wonder of one of the wonders of the world. They don't know how it got like that. The scorched earth. Something great caused that part of the earth, because at one time that part of the earth was lavish and rich agriculture. What happened? A great scorching of the earth when the moon part of the earth, because the earth was much bigger, and it broke off. And you know what it caused? That part of the side of the earth had more water on it. And because of the great separation, that part of the water that was on that part of the earth fell back down to the earth. That's why when you see the moon, every I think it is spring or summer equinox, when the moon comes closer to the earth, what does it cause? It causes a gravitational pull on the earth's surface, especially the oceans, which causes a 6 mile a mist of water to come up into the atmosphere, but it can't go no further than the 6 miles because it gets stuck there, and it has to come back down to the earth in way of rain or forming clouds, because mixing up with the gases, the cold and the hot water gas, the cold and the hot gases that are mingling with that water and that mist, so it gets trapped up in the atmosphere and it comes down in way of water. So in other words, the moon, because of its gravitational pull, it's almost like a jealous nature. It's trying to get back that which it has lost. And remember, white folks, they told us that there was never any water on the moon. What did they find recently?
Found water. I was just going to say, some of the places that you named, like the Grand Canyon, that's home. The eastern part belongs to the Diné, the Navajo Nation. The western part, Havasupai tribe. So I just wanted to name and Paiute.
There was a reason why I was getting into this, because it leads up to our people today and being so confused. Now even some native nations are saying that, we found these structures, even like the Pueblos, those structures, those buildings. They said, we didn't build that. That was here. We found it. So who built it? All right. So if you ever looked at the planet Mars, now the white man is sending, and has been since the 70s, his Viking Voyager probe. They're taking the surface pictures of Mars, coming back what looks like dwellings. Some of them almost look like the dwellings in the Pueblos. Oh yeah. But they are trying to say that these are aliens, possibly. They don't know for sure. What they do is they try to lay confusion because according to history, white man is always right. He knows everything. That's what part of his white supremacy. He knows everything. Everyone else behind him knows very little. And in order for us to get truth, we have to go to him. And out of here with that. So when that great separation occurred, and this was 66 trillion years ago. This is in my lessons. And then of course the moon wasn't in the form that it's in today. That took a long time for it to be, shaped out and rounded into the moon that we see today. But my point is that the science and the technology now they're saying something crashed and hit the moon and it sounded hollow. Boom. Sound like something's ringing. I notice that there are people up there. And these are our ancestors who have been up there on that part for, like I said, trillions of years. You said that's impossible. But how long have you and I been on this planet? Have our people, our fathers, do you know the white man said 6,000 years ago, yet he's pulling bones up out of the ground 1.6 million years ago. Wait a minute. I'm not stupid. You telling me the earth is 6,000 years ago, but you're pulling bones up out of the ground that says 1.6 million. That don't make any sense.
I think the bones tell a different story. And like you say, our ancestors, like the Cherokees, tell a story of them coming from the Pleiadios, which is a star or a part of the moon or something like that, that they not even
talking about the Pleiades. The
Pleiades. Yeah, the Pleiades. They say that they come from the Pleiades.
That's a Greek term. So remember, the white man has renamed everything.
Right. So whatever how they say that, I would have to look that up and bring that back.
I wanted to complete my thought with this, that our people have been on this planet again for trillions of years. And at one point, I thought that the so-called Egyptians, the Kemites, that they came over to North America when the invasions took place by the Greeks. When the Greeks invaded, they tried to get Ethiopia. They didn't get Ethiopia. They got its sister, which was called Kemet, now called Egypt, and they changed the whole landscape of that area, now called Egypt. And those people to this day don't know the historical origins of those people. They were black people. But it's not to say that even though there were people and remnants of those who still lived in one part. Now you got to remember, the United States and Africa and some of the other continents, they were together. Now it looks like one big puzzle between the continents. It looked like something happened and everything broke apart. Right? But it doesn't mean that even over time that there were not those who still, with the advanced technology that they had, they didn't venture out. Now, I know for a fact, because of an African scholar. I think his name was Chancellor. Don't quote me on that. There was two. I can't remember the other one's name. But they found that there was an ancient Egyptian, a black Egyptian pharaoh that traveled over to North America, and he retrieved tobacco from there. And they found the black archaeologist and his white counterparts. They found, through chemical study, the tobacco leaf in his mouth. And they did a DNA chemical analysis, and they said, oh, this is American tobacco. How did it get over there? These fools don't know that the continents used to be together. And they said, well, if we had such cataclysms, that means that everybody's Everybody died. No. They just like they say with the flood, everybody died. No. The flood wasn't global. It was only in certain areas of the earth. Imagine a global flood with the ice caps. Think about that. It makes no sense. That makes no sense. White folks, that's how they told on themselves. You took me to tell me there was a global flood. So what about the North and South Poles? How does that water recede?
Right.
That make no sense.
Mhm.
The logical mind sees that. So they told those lies, and the lies coupled with the separation of the continents, and then when they got this Egyptian pharaoh's body back, when that black Egyptologist turned his head, those white archaeologists, they snatched the body and took off.
Right.
So our people, listen to me. Our people are also descendants. Some of us over here are also descendants of the ancient Kemites. We've just changed cultures. Now, what does that mean? So, according to our lessons, we change our culture every 25,000 years. Why? You know, some people, the looks on their faces like, well, how is that? It's easy. You get bored with your style of clothes, or somebody else comes in and says, I ain't wearing what you wearing. Somebody who's in your same culture, I want to do something different. Next thing you know, he's wearing a different style of clothes. And next thing you know, the younger generation come up behind it, they're looking and they see this new style of wear. They start following that. And we changing our external identity to a degree, some drastic in some cases, some not so drastic. But I do know this for a fact, that the black man does change his culture every 25,000 years. What we don't and are not supposed to change is the essence of the moral fiber that God gave us in treating one another. That is not supposed to change. In other words, the just and equitable laws that are not just written down on paper, but they're supposed to exist within the heart and the mind framework of our people. Do unto your brother as you had him do unto you. Do justice to the fatherless and the needy and the afflicted. Our moral perspectives not supposed to change. That is supposed to be continual. But we all change the way we look and dress. That happens over time. Now, of course, we as a people, indigenous peoples, when the Indians, we got to remember, America was inhabited by others before the Indians were exiled from India over 16,000 years ago, and they came across the Bering Straits, and they mingled. Hold on. They mingled with the Siberians and the Mongols as they were coming in from Seattle, Washington. They were coming in from the Ohio Valley, and they were coming in from the great state of Maine, coming in different parts and bringing their cultures with them. Now, there were some people that were here, black people that were here already, and some of them stayed. Some of them had. I heard this is recent. Some of them had to fight because they came into contact with these new people. Some of them desperate because when you're traveling all of those miles from India, you look at that, the land bridge, you might be a little destitute, struggling to survive, and now you coming into lands and areas that were alien to you, but you're looking at it now. At least I'm away from all the ice and snow, coming depending on the time that you came down, and you had some skills or survival, because guess what? The Siberians, you mixed with the Siberians and the Mongols. This is the Indians from India. They were dark skinned, very dark, with straight hair and sometimes some curly hair. And when they mingled again with the Siberians and the Mongols, who were also a darker peoples, they did that for survival, Because when you coming from India now, they were excommunicated from India for worshiping Buddha over 16,000 years. This was in my lessons. So when I started piecing the puzzle together, everyone's arguing over, that they came over here, a land bridge. Some saying no, they didn't come over here, no land bridge. Some saying that we popped up by the creeks and the valleys, that we came out of the holes in the mountains. And I'm listening to this. I'm like, this don't make no damn sense. And there were people here that were here already, just not in large number. And these were some of the other darker peoples. You get different types of phenotypes of darker peoples that it were either here and that were coming over the land bridge, and they met. Some of them had differences, some of them didn't, some of them conflict. You understand what I'm saying? But we know initially that they were able to flourish. Now. Could some of them have come over here from ancient Kemet? From ancient Kemet to the New World, from the southern border? The Gulf of Mexico? Florida? Where else? Mexico, Arizona. Yeah. Could they have come over here in boats? Hell yeah. Because they found a brother who was in a papyrus-made boat who was an Egyptian pharaoh. So there's your evidence. So that means they knew about this landmass. You follow what I'm saying to you, brother? So in other words, in essence, what we have here is a conglomeration of peoples coming at different times, and some who had already been here.
Right. That's what they say, back and forth, because the United States Air Force is always that region of where that they found that they block it. Like when I did my research paper about this ancient Egyptian, they boarded that area up on purpose. They got rid of that. Like they're not letting nobody go in there. And I think it's near a military base too. It's on purpose. There are things in the United States, even to this day, they keep quiet on purpose. They know about things in the woods, and there are creatures that are out there that the Cherokees talk about. The people of the other village, Bigfoot, skunk age, but the Cherokee word is people of the other village. I can't pronounce it. I'm going to get that word. And they are spiritual beings, and they go back and forth, but they said they've been around for thousands of years. Then there's these pharaoh people that I was just looking at the other day that are strange in the Appalachian, the area where Cherokees and Creeks used to live, that now they live into. So there's a lot of things in the United States that they're going to keep hidden from us, because if they told us, they couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, bro. I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a strong belief. I have a strong belief that these pharaoh people, skunk apes, are descendants of Neanderthals who were stuck up in the mountains, and some of them started to come out, of the mountains and travel. And I honestly believe that they have to stay. That's why, for the most part, they stay towards like areas that it has the climates are cool. Because imagine a Neanderthal in Florida wouldn't live very long, with all that hair on it.
But actually, they are in Florida. They're among the Seminole. Yeah, they're called skunk age. That's the Creek name for them.
But yeah, that means that they would have to be around water, because for all of that hair, they would sweat to death. They would literally hypothermia, would settle in, and they wouldn't be able to survive. So, but personally, as far as spiritual, I'm careful with that, because I would personally at night, I wouldn't want to see anything like that. In a dark area, something creeping around in the woods looking like that, man.
Our people dealt with these things. They went to war with these things. There were giants with red hair. that were here. There are beings.
When you say giants, hold on, brother, hold on, because I've delved in this. You talking about giant? You get people who are like, say, 5'2", and you get somebody who's like 6'9", 7 foot tall. That's a giant. For someone.
No, we're talking about 9 feet, like very large people with red hair.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
These are stories
in Ohio. They found skeletons of people who were tall, seven, maybe 8 feet in length. You know, and you know there are some people who develop what's called gigantism as a result of a pituitary gland that excretes too much of that fluid out, and it causes the growth hormones to, right? But this is rare. And it wasn't like a common thing where people just spitting out babies. No, I don't believe that. Nowhere. When we talking about giants in the scriptures, now hear me. You have some people. It's a metaphor. You have some people who are small in stature, but are giants in terms of their output and production and what they do with their lives. They not only enrich their lives, they enrich the lives of others. You know, I don't know if you ever seen that movie, Mo Better Blues with Spike Lee.
I'm not. I'm gonna have to put on watch.
Spike Lee was called his nickname was Giant in the movie, and Spike Lee he's about 5'4", but he did some good things and some great things for his management career in terms of the musicians that he worked with. So the being giant is a metaphor for people who do great things, who are not considered in stature in terms of their physical stature. They're not that big, but their influence in people's lives. See, we take certain words too literal, man, that have been used as a metaphor to explain a person's character, to explain their brilliance mentally. That you would look and say, and some people say, I would have never thought that this person did all that. This little person right here, wow, and that's huge. It's huge. So we listen. And the white man is. Let me tell you something. He's using these metaphors to fool people on YouTube, just like he told us that these UFOs are aliens. He got most of our people running around here talking about, yo, the aliens are coming, and you all scared, thinking that these are aliens. No, our people have been on this planet for trillions of years, brother. So if the gods that have been on this planet for trillions of years, they're here, the white man don't want you to know that. He wants you thinking that they're aliens. So you going in your house rushing, oh, I see these aliens, I'm gonna get my gun. And as if though
that's not gonna work. They don't understand there's different ways of fighting. And I think that's why people have to understand what level do you have to fight these things? Because you know, and I both know there's different ways of fighting. There's spiritual, there's mental, there's physical. You got to know which way to fight.
No, but I'm saying it specifically in regards to what they're playing our people. They're playing us, got us thinking that the gods that's spoken of throughout the scripture, they are real flesh and blood. They're real and they're here. And they have us thinking that these spherical objects that we're seeing are some scaly skin, bulbous eyes, you know, big heads, small heads. That Hollywood can't make up their mind as to, you know, now they're telling us that, oh, well, we don't know if they're aliens, but if we were to imagine, we would think they look like this, or 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 they look like this. Come on, which one is it? You confusing the hell out of people, and you scaring people when you're not telling them. When you read your scriptures, it says God made a wheel that was a half a mile by a half a mile, and that's in the book of Genesis. You know, so we have been taught that God said He created man in His image. You know, and if He created man in His image, that means that we look like God,
right?
He didn't make no scaly lizard people. Where does it say that in the book? I know I read the whole book. So we've been
I
deceived.
think that people get like the back part of when Paul is talking about all sorts of flesh that these spirits created during during Genesis, and then they said that and then if you read the book of Enoch, I think that's where they're getting this idea that these angels made
Total
these different forms of bodies.
Total misinterpretation and understanding of the word spirit. You know, you go pick up a bottle of rum. It says, be careful of these spirits. So if you ever take a fresh bottle of rum and open it up, you go like this. That's your reaction because it's so strong. Even a bottle of alcohol has spirits. 100% proof alcohol has spirits in it. A spirit comes from the word spirity, which means to spiral. You have two definitions of spiral: vertical, going up, and the opposite, going down, descending, ascending, descending, right? Mm-hmm. So you get a bottle of liquor that's only 15% alcohol. You can sit there and be like this. Yeah, you can smell that for a minute and you know it's not that strong, but get 100 proof. That's ascending.
Knocks you off your feet.
The metaphor here, most people miss. The metaphor here is, what are you filled with? Are you filled with alcohol, 100 proof, or 15% proof, or are you filled with the knowledge of who God is?
Mm-hmm.
So what spirit are you operating on?
Got you.
You understand what I'm saying? And so that's why I'm saying people got to be careful with interpretation here. Look, listen, bro, this knowledge that I have, understand, it took me years. God was talking to me through my steps over the years, talking to me. Don't think this literal. The man switched this up and turned this around. And he got most of the people who are eating all of the wrong foods. We're listening to all of the wrong information. We're being deceived still and have been for the past 400 years. And because we can't think for ourselves independently, and we're praying and on the wrong frequency to God, that we're not being answered because we're still operating under false influences. You know, you're confused within your own brain. You're trying to figure out between what white people have taught us for 400 years, and then now to lean more to the right of real spirituality and not that falsehood, which is dealing with a ghost, a spook, something that you allegedly can't see, but you know when your child comes running out of the room, oh, Daddy, Mommy, I saw a ghost. You be like, go back to bed. There ain't no such thing as no ghost. Go and you take them back to bed and you cover them up, you know, and that sort of thing. You know, you reassure them that, and even a spirit or a ghost. Look, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I have never seen any ghosts, but if they are real, if they're there, I can bet you this: I'm packing up and I'm moving, just like that. But
a lot of I have to say this, like the Apaches, a lot of natives, if they did know there was a spirit there that was gone within the night, they did not stay in that camp. They was gone.
Yeah, it was gone.
Get out the area.
Right, but doting upon something that's dead, and if it managed to have survived the grave physically, that means it's a very unrestful spirit. And the best thing would be to do is get out of there.
Well, the problem is that I heard, I don't know how true this is. You know, I don't, you know, once again, they say that in Indianapolis on the east side, that is cursed from all of the native people, because central Indianapolis, Indiana was very predominant with Lenape and Kickapoo, but they massacred massive numbers and forced death marches on the rest of the native population. Only the Potawatomi, Powhatan Potawatomi, and the Miami state of the state of Indiana are here. Everybody else has gone to Oklahoma. But they killed them off, and they said because they killed them, desecrated them, the graves, that forever there would be no peace. That's what a Potawatomi from northern Indiana came down and visited a black lady, told her. That's why there's so much crime. But I don't know if it's that or if it's just the economical things put on from the government, put drugs and crime there on purpose and won't build it up. I don't know.
Well, a lot of the Potawatomis, they're up in Maine now. But as far as the ills that have befallen our people today, you know, look, a weak mind, and we have been trained to be weak within the past 300 to 400 years of our servitude to these people. We have been in their schools, and most of their schools have failed our people tremendously because the education, which is supposed to be inspiration to enlighten the minds of our people to ascribe or inspire us to be better human beings, has done the opposite, has destroyed our people. So that means that his educational inspirational system has done what? With the word spiral. No, the word spiral, to go up, to go down. So that spiral is not going up. It's going what?
Down. You know what I found out? There was a lady who I work with, very nice lady, who still helps me out to this day. She's a teacher. She's educated in Nigeria. She came here and they in the Indianapolis public schools wanted to pay her $13 an hour. She has a master's degree in teaching. And you want to pay a woman a master's degree $13 an hour?
She got a master's degree from who?
In Nigeria for teaching.
And you know that the I think the British and the French rule in that country. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. She always talks about it's different.
So who would it see? Look, I get to the core. Who is the purveyor of their institutions? Who construct?
No, I'm saying in America. No, Indianapolis.
No, that's not what I think you missed what I'm saying, brother. She got her master's degree in Nigeria, right?
Right.
So the schools that she went to there, who constructed those schools?
Oh, the British. That's a British control territory.
That's why I said who did she get her master's degree from?
Yeah, it was from the university.
So regardless, so the white man said to her when she came to America, they said, "Do you know that the British were our enemies?" For one, see, you got to look at things underneath the surface. The British were our enemies. For one, for two, you're a black woman. For three, you coming from Africa, and for four, you think you coming over here getting the same salary as my people? You must be crazy. That's why they did that to her.
Oh, I just thought it was because Indianapolis public schools, unless you are the top, what's the top one? Superintendent gets most of the money, right? He's wearing the nice suits, going around giving the speeches, trying to get more money. Unless you're a superintendent of that school system, you at the bottom.
So find out if there have been any other Europeans that came over that held the same type of degree coming from Ireland, from Europe. And find out if they were doing the same with them. I bet you 9 times out of 10 they were not.
Oh no, they're not going to accept that. You got to at least pay them about what? If the going rate was 13, at least what, 18, 19, 20?
Hello.
Shoot.
So and that's my point. That's my point. That's my point.
And even me, I was going to go for IPS school police. I'm glad I didn't, because they are the lowest paid police department out there. They was making 21 when I was going to start. I'm glad I did corrections. I was at 20. I'm at 22 now. They boosted me to 23. So well, just mention,
you got me by $2 an hour, bro.
Oh yeah, like if corrections is paying now because because nobody wants to stay there. So they got to have some type of way to keep us coming back.
Because they worry about uprisings.
And, they have an elite force there called what's it called? Something squad, E squad. That's the elite force, and then the more elite force is the other thing. So they got different levels. So if something uprisings happen, you have to, even as a correction officer, you have to give up your power of letting them take control until they kill somebody. Then you got to rise up and say, nope, I'm not signing up for this one, and fight back then. Well, let them take over, because while they doing that, they setting something else up, you know.
So the problem is that you got a lot of people who locked up for traffic violations in the prison.
Yes,
system.
that's it. Yeah, I asked a lot of people, what you hear? Oh, some woman crashed into me. Oh, my license was bad, so they locked me up. I was like, what? Did you get in trouble? I was like, where were you?
So
were you
when
in
I was-
Indianapolis? They're like, no, we're in a different city.
When I was a Panther, we found out down in places like Texas and the deep rural South that there were brothers who were in prison for traffic infractions, and guess what? They never made it out of prison. They
What? They were killed?
found hung in their cell.
Yeah, that happens a lot in between mental illness and people hanging them. Mental illness is big.
I know if they didn't have mental illness before they were locked up, they ended up getting in there in the long term, but they were killed by the Klan that's working in the departments.
Whoa, I feel like there's Klansmen even to this day, because the Africans have complained to me, no black people work on the walks. That's like outside of and being in the units, they're on the walks, and they'd be like, the reason is,
you're talking about these? You're talking about these walks? They got the rifles?
No, yeah, like they're up in those walks, and then like where you walk, where you're on the outside. We have to bear the craziness while everybody else who's non-black gets to run around on the walks. Easy job.
Right.
We deal with the.
So you think that's by accident?
That's by design. All the Africans were telling me this, and I see it so. And they even train people. It's supposed to be 6 months. Then you get trained for the handgun, the rifle, all of that. But I haven't been trained on none of that, and I still haven't went on a watch. A watch is when they go out to the hospital, and you could sit there for 14 hours to get overtime. Only few blacks or Africans get to do watches. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, that's where you make your money, is watches, really. Well, in between watches and overtime, but the overtime watch, you make more than a regular overtime. 12 hours for regular, 14 hours for a watch.
So this is a way, a method of control and murder.
Mm-hmm.
Our people, and this is something that's been ongoing for a very long time. Right. Information is so powerful and important, man, and that's why. Look, this is the reasons why our people have to come out of. These people are going to change. As long as we're amongst them, they're going to be fearful, and they're going to commit violent and brutal acts against our people and keep murdering our people. Because another thing they're scared of is the numbers. The numbers. They're scared of the numbers. They're scared that it's going to be too many of us one day, and that we're going to retaliate. Not to say that they don't deserve retaliation because of shit that they've done and are still doing to our people, that wouldn't be warranted. But we're not as wicked as they are. We've never been as wicked as they have, and are still to this very day. But the best course of action would be to separate from these people, whether we like it or not. Some of our people are going to want to stay with Whitey. Say Whitey. Shay Whitey.
That is true. And speaking of that, in prison is a perfect example. Most blacks go with blacks, most Latinos or Hispanics, which my grandmother explained to me. Then I get back to, I'm going off on tangent. Hispanic and Latino were made up. Why? Because they did not want them with whites. Right. But because some Latinos wanted to identify with the Spanish, the white side, so they could have whiteness. Others, yeah.
Remember, Latino, Hispanic, all of this is new. This is
right within the past 500 years.
No. Within the past 500 years, not 50 years.
No, I'm talking about the term Hispanic.
But when they went to the Caribbean, the islands, when they conquered the indigenous peoples there, just like us, we speak English, but the indigenous peoples on the islands, the Spanish conquistadors, when they set up their churches, they set up their schools. Who did they put in those schools? They took the women and the children. They killed most of the men. Then they bred the women out, and then their children they put into schools. These are the descendants of the indigenous peoples mixed with some of the Spanish conquistadors, and now they speaking Spanish.
And you can't forget our African ancestors is strongly Yoruba.
So
I found out from Nigeria, there's strong Yoruba and Ashanti from Ghana. So
Yes.
there's Ghanese people in Yoruba, in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, in
Yes.
between, and then
Yes.
and Haiti is a
But so-
mixture of all Africa, and then you got Jamaica, the Ashanti from Ghana. So it's like when I did my DNA test, I see number one, I'm Nigerian, 18%. Number two, I'm Mexican, indigenous heavily, and then all these other African nations I'm mixed with, and then it comes down to, which I feel like they minimize, 2% American Indian. I'm like, hold up, that's not right. Go ahead.
That's why I never got a blood test, because look, blood quantum does not dictate your spirituality and the connectedness with God. I don't care where the hell you are on this planet or where you come from. I could, as an Indian chief, right? I could go on the other side of the planet, have kids, and still be an Indian chief, right? Now, some indigenous peoples were forced out of their lands and taken elsewhere, right? Now, some of them kept the knowledge of themselves. Some of them were forced out. Some of them were bred out, if you will. They lost their melanin completely. Some of them lost their languages completely and their culture. But if I go to another place and I keep my language, my identity, my heritage, and I go to a different area, but the demographic that's around me is predominantly another genotype, and then I give my blood to those who conquered that area, and they say, you are 90% this, 10% that. And you're like, but my ancestry is on this part of the map. How did I end up, and I know who I am. You see,
right.
What I mean by I don't trust their DNA testing. I don't trust it. At one time I came this close to doing it, not anymore. Especially I'm finding out that they saying most black people are from Nigeria. I'm hearing this all over the place. Even but
Nigerians tell me that too, though. A lot of Nigerians tell me that. They look at my facial features.
There's a problem with that. It's a problem with that. Because initially the white man went inside of Egypt and kidnapped most of they were not Africans. They were black people, the Kemites. And they kidnapped a lot of the Kemites and brought them over here, and they put them in Virginia. And that's
where they did say my ancestors started was from what's South Carolina and Virginia, Mississippi, and Texas. What's that? L1, Louisiana. So I have a mixed ancestry.
You notice that they say most black people now don't have any connection to ancient Egypt at all.
Right. Now they didn't show any country.
Right. Now I know for a fact that Benjamin Banneker, who designed the Capitol, was a master builder. And they kidnapped carpenters, engineers, scientists. That's what they got us believing that they just kidnapped Kunta Kinte. Man, get the hell out of here with that.
No, they kidnapped everybody.
Right, but no, when it came to, they needed people that could build. How do you think they got their institutions in place? Their big their centers of political fortitude, their Congress, their capitals, their money manufacturing buildings. Who do you think built that? Who do you think designed that? It wasn't these white folks.
It was us.
So in order to disassociate us with that, he had to say, you're from Nigeria, you're from Congo, you're from these other places that are more tribal and spear chucking. You threw spears. This is how white supremacy is able to they claim to be the master race. They say you was a jungle bunny.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm just saying, me in particular, if my mom's DNA and ancestry is from Arizona, right? And it showed southeastern Arizona, northern Mexico, and that's right. Like the genealogy matches up to the DNA. Then what?
All I'm saying is that you're much older than that.
So you're saying I'm older than Nigeria?
No,
and
no, yes. Nigeria is how old?
I don't know. I don't know the real history outside of colonization.
60 years? That country was rebuilt by the Europeans in terms of the mental and educational structure of after they conquered with the people that were originally there. So a lot of people, unbeknownst to a lot of people, look, this is the hard part, that we have been taught to believe that we evolved from monkeys and that we came out of caves. And this is the hard part, because you say, well, we had to start from somewhere, right?
We started from man. We were always humans.
Always the original Asiatic black man to make it the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. He was this color. He was this color. He was this color. What is that? It's this color. The original. Right. So when God created himself. Now this part right here, when I talk to people about, some people start scratching and start looking like, is this guy talking about God creating himself? Did I stutter? Yeah, he created himself from the cosmos of what's called subatomic protons, electrons, atoms. I say a lot of the original man, atom, out of the mind concept, because the mind and the brain are two separate entities. The mind is a gaseous cloud. I can't see into your mind and know what you're thinking. Thought comes like 186,000 miles per second. It's traveling at the speed of thought, or the speed of light, and it's gone just that quick. So that's the mind. But the brain is finite. It's physical. It goes back to the earth. But the mind. So God created himself out of the gaseous clouds, heat and cold air masses meeting, forming from gases to liquids to solids. So they're saying, well, how does that work? Well, if you look at what we call a paramecium, we learned this in science. What is that? A single cell, right? Single cell organisms. The single cell starts to do what? Starts to split, and it multiplies, and it organizes, and it builds. That's how God Allah, who I know him as, how he produced himself out of the springs and wells of water and earth and electricity. Because we all have that, don't we? We're made of water, earth, stone, and electricity. So God made himself out of that, and he was already with the intelligence in mind of creation and construct. But of course, in the physical body, coming from the mind, the spirit, and the essence of God himself, he had to mature and develop into the body coming from the essence. Does that make sense to you, brother?
Yeah, that makes
essence, right? So when we die, the essence goes back
to the creator. The Egyptians even had that concept too, of all breath of life goes back to the creator. Most people understand you go back to the creator when you pass on. Yeah. Most people, but I think they put it in different ways.
While we're here on earth, we can communicate with him. I know. How do you think I came to this knowledge? Even though I had the lessons growing up and I was reading about how God created it's still, I read it, but I didn't really understand it in its real form, and how how the process, how God, took. So some people argue with me and they said, Well, you trying to say that God had a beginning? No, I said he was always here. You look at the universe, the infinite gases, clouds of planets and energy, and the vastness of space, which is blackness. That's why I said some people got problems with the word black. You're a damn fool. Listen,
because they don't understand that it has power.
The universe and the base of the universe, everything comes from black. Everything. So you don't want to embrace that which gave you life. You want to sit there and argue with something that you come from, which is the greater good. But the understanding of that, that's why it says darkness, the light was in the midst of the darkness and it perceived it not. So we are foolish knowledge and information today, and don't understand that which is the greater knowledge of God, which will connect us to our higher selves and not the lower selves, even regardless of color, because God himself does not discriminate the basis of color, but he is the judge of those on the earth that are committing mischief, whether you be white or you be black or you be brown or you be red or you be yellow. I don't deal with purple and blue and orange because I ain't never seen those people except for Trump.
Isn't that hairspray or skin spray, whatever he puts on? Who knows?
He got a fluorescent light over him. I don't know. But he looks
all right. Well, we've been on for a little, more than what I was expecting, and I got to get running. I know you do too. So I'm going to tell you, Wado, Ski, thank you. Adonadol Key, until we meet again, bro. Thank you so much for your knowledge and your time.
Question: are you going to post this? You going to post?
Yes, I'm going to post this. Also, if somebody's interested in getting a hold of you or wants to watch more about you, you have a podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
No, I don't have a podcast as of yet. I'm working on my YouTube channel. Remember, I told you that I'm becoming more knowledgeable on how to manipulate videos and doing talk over and speaking about certain subject matter on YouTube or other channels, especially when it comes to news and information. So I'm still working on how to manipulate that. But as far as a podcast is concerned, not at this time. Not yet.
Oh, you don't have no new material, but if they wanted to watch your older material, just see who you are, where could they go?
I just recently did a video at the spur of the moment because the spirit took me. What's today? Yesterday or Thursday?
Saturday. Today's Saturday. Yesterday was Friday.
Yeah, so I think it was Friday. I did a video and it's on my YouTube channel. So it's the most recent one that I did. I have to go back and edit it and put a title on it because it's still running under Native Roots, a comparative look at indigenous peoples and other groups of people who have basically argued about their suffering from the European onslaught and what has happened within the past 500 years. So this video is really talking about the recent spates of shootings that have been going on with the police, and other related issues within that video. It was a powerful, I think it was almost an hour, 49 minutes or 50 minutes. I did the video and a lot of good information on there. But yeah, on that note, my brother, I'm happy that you invited me onto your podcast, and I'm looking forward to more videos to enlighten and educate our people as much as we can. I love you, my brother, and
thank you. Love you too, bro.
Definitely appreciate this time. And again, as I grow, as you grow, as we help each other to grow, it only benefits ourselves and our people for the greater good. And Donada Kohoni Anigido, peace and blessings.
Okay, say Wado ski Wado Donada ski. Until we meet again. Thank you.
Oh.